What an idiot. At any rate, is there anybody that's opposed to me recording this so that other people can see it that have missed it? If you do, I would like you to blank out your screen and then you won't be on the recording, okay? It's only going to be other kids in the contest. Okay, where were we? Okay, I want your parents to bring signs and stuff like that to the contest, and you'll show them how to mirror the screen. And tell them not to chat during the contest, that you'll get embarrassed, okay? Because probably the guy that's running the show will make a little scene for you. That'd be me, okay? So don't have them chatting during. Now they can send a chat, an individual chat. Why am I leaving the chat icon engaged? You might ask yourself. Well, the reason is if you're complaining or you see something that you feel is unfair about the contest or you don't think is right, I want them to be able to send a chat to me saying there's a problem. If they don't, after the award ceremony starts, there will be no complaints of any kind allowed. Is everybody clear on that? Once awards are made, that's it. It doesn't matter if we cheated all the way through, everybody cheated, that's it. Once that award is made, forget it. No complaints will be accepted. It's district policy, that's it. So I need to have them send any kind of a complaint like that to me right away, okay? Now, after that, I'm going to explain to them. Hold your hand up if you know about gallery and speaker view. Anybody? Okay, most of you I think do. Up in the right-hand corner of your screen, see the little symbol that says view? Click on that and you'll see whether you're on gallery view or speaker view right now. Okay, I recommend. Now remember, this only affects your computer. It doesn't affect anybody else's computer in the room. And they also don't know whether you have your computer on gallery or speaker view. So your parents, for example, may want to mostly see you and not the rest of the meeting. So the best, and I'm going to recommend this at the beginning of the meeting, that they all keep their computers on speaker view. I'm recommending that all of you keep your computers on gallery view. And the reason is when you're talking and giving your speech, I want you to feel like you're in front of all these people and are giving a speech to a group of people, not just one individual. Gallery view is what I'm in right now so that I can see all of you at once without being in little tiny pictures along the top, okay? So that's important. Okay, now, oh, there was one I slipped over. Oh, full screen. How many of you know what full screen is? Raise your hand if you know. Okay, just one person doesn't know. I didn't know what full screen was for about 2 or 3 months when I first started on this adventure of being district chairperson. And every once in a while, it would go to full screen all by its little self. I don't know how. And I couldn't find any of my meeting controls, right? So when you're on full screen, when you click view, go ahead and click view. Does it say full screen there or does it say exit full screen? At the bottom? If it says full screen, if you click on it, like I just did, now it takes up the entire screen of the computer, whether you're on gallery view or speaker view. And you lose your controls up in the upper right-hand side. You also lose your controls to be able to split the screen or move it, if you know what I'm talking about, but you don't need to know how to do that, so I won't go into it just right now. So I recommend that if you do exit full screen, that allows you to have the chat window up or the participant window and see who's in the meeting. particularly when you have 40 or 50 people in a meeting, it's really hard to know who all's there unless you use the participant screen. And I think you all know about it already, don't you? Raise your hand if you know about participant screen. Okay, everyone? Okay, so I'm not going to go over that one. One of the things that I enabled that your parents will probably love, but they're not allowed to use it during the contest, is the reactions button. If down in the right-hand corner of your icon, see reactions? In the settings, the reactions button is set to default not on. So when you're a host of a meeting and you want to have people do reactions, you need to enable it in your settings on zoom.us/meeting. Go there and you'll be able to do the settings for your meeting that you're holding. But I will have it enabled so that when you finish your speech, they'll be able to give you at least a clapping hand or something, as well as hold up the sign if they want to. Everybody got that now? Okay. Going on, let's get into some procedure rules about the speech contest. Here's something that I noticed: almost 90% of the speeches were being read somewhat almost all the time throughout all the speech contests I went to. I went to about probably 12 speech contests. Guess what? The rules have changed. You're in the big league right now. Some of you haven't done that or didn't realize that, but last, when you were in your contest previously that you won before here, you were allowed to have your speech written out and look at it and refer to it and read it. And some of you made me seasick. You looked up and down so much that I had to take a seasick pill. So don't do that. So what do? And I'm making probably my biggest recommendation right now. Take a 3x5 card, take your speech, and divide it up into stories. I've been sitting here and talking for what? God, almost a half an hour. And am I reading you my speech? See some movement. Alex thinks I am. No, I'm not. What am I doing? I'm telling you guys a story, aren't I? I'm telling you about controls and two bars and I'm just talking to you. Does that make sense? That's what I want you to do with your speeches. How many of you have had a teacher that read to you all the time? It's boring, isn't it? You're sitting there and you're going, oh, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it through this class. It's awful. Oh, I wished I was outside. I wished I was anywhere in the world but in this English class. I remember that. When you're giving your speech and you're looking at the people and talking to them and telling them a story, are they getting engaged with you? If you understand what I mean, they're getting engaged. I have a comment about people. Whatever you put out is exactly what will come back at you. It's called mirroring whatever you do. If I get really angry with you, what do you send back to me? Anger. If I am joyful with you and having a good time, what comes back to me? Happiness. People like other people that are happy. Now, I'm going to tell you how to win this contest right now. Make the judges happy. You get it? Even if you give a poor speech and you make them happy and make them enjoy your speech, they're going to grade you up. If you are reading a speech to people, it is boring because it's very hard to get emotion in a speech if you're reading it. The other thing is, some of you think that you have to memorize your speech. and give it. What happens when you memorize a speech? You start stuttering over a word that you forgot. That is a poor thing to have happen to you. Whereas if you're telling a story to your friend in the audience, you're telling a story and you don't stutter. You just let it all hang out. If you just keep going and go. So you don't want to memorize. Do you think I could memorize a speech? There's no, but can I memorize like 5 key words that are tied to stories and then just go from there? So now when we were talking about the toolbar, did I have to refer to my notes? I just went right through it. When, every once in a while I do refer to my notes, but if I was given a speech to you guys where I was being graded on it, I would have a 3x5 card up here with my keywords there. When you do the final speech, you're not even allowed to have a 3x5 card. So what you got to do is, instead of remembering the whole speech, just remember your key words. And you have an introduction keyword, have several stories keywords, and have a conclusion keyword. Does that make sense? These are just suggestions, but I think it really works well. And I've got the rules. By the way, oh, I know what I forgot to mention. Why didn't I give you guys all these handouts that I'm referring to before the meeting? No one? No answers? What would you guys be doing right this minute if I had this sent out to you before the meeting?
Looking at that instead of listening to you.
You would be looking at the handout, and would you be listening to me? No. Some of you are having trouble listening to me anyway, But if you're talking to someone and you're engaging with them, that makes them want to pay attention to what you're going to say next, doesn't it? If you're reading your speech and why care? Because I can read it myself. I'm going to send you guys all of these right after this meeting. Okay? So you don't really have to worry about writing down notes or anything, because you're going to get it all in writing after the meeting. But I want you to listen and say, gee, that sounds kind of interesting. You all know about the 5 and 8 minute rule, about it can't be less than 5 minutes or longer than 8 minutes. There is no rule that says that you cannot have a cell phone or a clock underneath your computer and refer to it as you do your speech. You see what I mean? If you're coming up a little short on 5 minutes, have a story prepared to slip into the speech. If you're under 8 minutes or over 8 minutes, take something away and then go into your conclusion so that you don't run over 8. That way you don't get penalized for a time score. I sat in on 12 different speeches, and I wasn't aware of a single time penalty in any of the speeches. So you do not want to get penalized for time, because that will probably knock you out of being a winner, even if you do have a really excellent speech. So be careful of that, okay? And we already talked, you guys know about no displays, prompts, or anything like that. And you must report anything that you're upset about early. We talked about having stories with the 3x5 card. We talked about the clock. Oh, what about being a little bit nervous? Is that bad? It's, you know what? Being a little nervous is actually good. Let me give you an example. I was a high school principal. I interviewed a lot of teachers. And the teacher that sat there and said, I know how to handle those kids, he probably wasn't going to get through me. But the teacher that was sit there that was a little nervous over the interview made me think that they really, really wanted that job. And who do I want? Somebody that the job doesn't mean much to, or someone that it means a lot to? Who do I want to win the contest? The kid that's really, really trying to win the contest. So all these little extra things can really pay off for you when, let's say that you're equal to someone else and say, well, that person appeared to really want to be successful at this speech. Who's going to get that extra point? You understand what I mean? So don't worry about that nervousness. It actually helps you. How many of you have experienced unstable Wi-Fi pop-ups? Anybody? I had one the other day. I went to 4 speech contests in a row, and I had unstable Wi-Fi pop up, and all of a sudden I popped out. And you guys know what I'm talking about. When I first started doing training, in fact, Andrea might have been there when I disappeared once or twice or 3 times. I disappeared. Now, if you disappear during a speech, just log immediately back on and we'll get you right back into your speech. You got that, you guys? Because we do not want to penalize you for technology. However, now I'm going to tell you how to keep that from happening to you. And I'm going to give you a little lesson on routers and modems. Routers and modems, when you buy one, all have static memory in them that is permanent. It does not go away whether there's electricity or not. And that's what boots it up when you first plug it in. Now, when you start using it, here's where the problem comes in, particularly with Zoom. Zoom, let me explain a little further. There's another part of memory that's called volatile in routers and modems. Both of them have volatile memory. Volatile memory is to allow you to have temporary files as you're doing Zoom contests in particular. And so these temporary files go into volatile memory in your modem and your router, and it just starts filling up and filling up. So last Tuesday, I went to 4 Zoom meetings and I wasn't even running them. And all of a sudden I have an unstable Wi-Fi thing for the first time in about 4 or 5 months. And I had even done the trick to make that work before I went to all those meetings. Zoom is notorious for taking up all the volatile memory in your router and modem. So what you do is in the back of your router and modem, you have a power cord and you just unplug it from the router and the modem and let it sit for a while. For example, tonight, I went and unplugged the modem and the router and then took a shower. And then I came back in, and here's the trick to it. When you unplug it, it gets rid of all the volatile memory in the router and the modem. So whatever's been stacking up there disappears. Make sense? When you plug it in, here's the trick. You must plug the modem in first. Then plug, after the modem lights up and you got all the lights on the modem working, showing that it's at full blast again, then plug the router in. If you plug the router in first, it goes out looking for your modem and it gets mad when it can't find it and starts acting up. So be careful with that. Plug the modem in first and then your router. Now, on the afternoon before the speech contest, if I were you, I would unplug my modem and router and let it sit for at least 3 to 5 minutes or longer, because it takes a little while for that volatile memory to disappear. And then come back and plug in your modem, get the lights going on it, and plug in your router. And honest to goodness, since I started doing that, I haven't had unstable Wi-Fi in ages and ages. On Tuesday, I was watching one of the kids give a speech, and I watched her freeze. I watched her audio go crackly and everything. And then it just got worse and worse, and it kind of ruined her speech. And it hurt me really badly to know that I probably could have saved her from that by just teaching her this one little technique that works so well. And that is the orientation. Now I'm going to give you exactly what's going to happen next Thursday. Okay, let me get a drink so I can keep. Okay. Next Thursday, when you log in early, you'll get in the waiting room and I'll bring you into the main room and you get to sit there and chat with me. And that's always fun. I think anyway. Then at 12:05, I wait 5 minutes after the official supposed starting time because I want most of the audience to be in the waiting room at 12 o'clock. At 12:05, I start a song. Now, I bought a song on, I looked and looked on Amazon for something that was really upbeat. I have a belief that Zoom is a dead as a doornail software. It is boring being here, isn't it? So I bought a song and it's called Girls Like to Have Fun. And it is pretty upbeat. I love the song and I didn't know how it was going to go over. So at our speech contest, what I did was when I opened the waiting room, Girls Just Want to Have Fun was playing when you got into the meeting. So you need to tell your mom and dad who don't like loud music that they can control the music with the volume controls on their speakers on their computers. I cannot control the level of the music that goes out to the audience. They have to control it themselves. And I thought, I wonder how this is going to go over. And I'm telling you, there were people dancing, they were rocking in their chairs. And it was just, that's when they walked into the meeting. So we started out, and this is what I'm going to do for your meeting too. You start out with this song going, and it sort of sets the atmosphere for the meeting, I think. And we want people to have a good time. I want you to think about when you're giving your speech to enjoy yourself. Make people enjoy you giving your speech. Have fun no matter what. You are to have fun when you're giving your speech. If you're bored, they're bored. If you're going to sleep, they're going to sleep. Whatever you put out into the audience. Now, while we've been, and I'm trying to practice that myself. I forgot to mention about eye contact. When I first was teaching about doing speeches, I always tell students to look in the eye of their audience. Now, I've been looking at all of you. Have you been able to tell that I'm not looking right at the camera? It's hard to tell, isn't it? But technically, I'm looking at the screen of each of you. Do not worry about looking at the camera to get eye-to-eye contact. Look at all the people in your view, and that way you make connections. If someone's smiling at you, smile back. Get this mirror thing going with your audience, and if they really enjoy your speech, you're going to have a good time, and it just keeps multiplying and multiplying. Okay, right after that, the president, or the MC, which will be one of the assistant governors, is supposed to wave for me to stop the music. Our president forgot to do that, so we got a little more music than I had planned, but then I finally just stopped it because I knew the guy had lost it. Whoever's the MC is going to do an introduction speech, and then we're going to have, I went nuts. I found a song by Lee Greenwood. Have you guys heard of Lee Greenwood? He does a song to the Pledge of Allegiance that is out of sight. And so I bought it and I have made a video out of it with flags and things. And let me tell you, it is really cool. So at the beginning of the Pledge of Allegiance, I'm going to get on and I'm going to say, will everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I want each of you to stand up, but do not stand right in front of your computer because the only thing we can see is your belly button. I want you to stand up and walk behind your chair and make sure your face is in the computer, and then put your hand over your heart, you know, as a pledge of allegiance. And it looks so cool when you guys are doing that, that you're going to have all the audience impressed already, because half the Rotarians are still sitting in their chairs. And when they realize that you guys are getting up, all of them then get up, believe it or not. Because, and it goes for, I forget how long the song actually is. Then I'm going to do a review of the toolbar for your parents so they don't get confused and not know what's going on. Right after that, there's going to be an introduction of the judges. They're going to each introduce themselves and talk about themselves and what their speech experience is. These judges have had a lot of experience with speeches. One of them put himself all the way through law school giving speeches. One of them was my head speech person at the high school, who is now an attorney, who was doing speeches with our district attorney here in town and enjoyed that so much. And he and her got to be really good friends. And he talked her into going to law school, and she became an assistant district attorney here in town. And now she's working for the government as an attorney. She was my ASB advisor and speech chair, club chair. She's one of the judges. So we have some really first-class judges, and you don't have to worry about that at all. Then following that, the moderator is going to do a quick review of all the rules and things like that as far as the contest. Then he's going to say, are the speech officials ready? That's when contestant 1 needs to get ready to give his speech. Okay, Alex? And so, you know, during the speech, get your microphone unmuted during the period of time between speeches. There's nothing worse than starting your speech with your microphone muted, because somebody's going to say, after about probably 30 seconds of you doing your whole introduction, Angie, you forgot to unmute your microphone. You understand what I mean? So in between, you know, when you're 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever one you are, get the microphone unmuted at that time. Okay. When we finish the 4th contestant, or the 6th contestant, I'm sorry, then your parents can applaud and hold their signs up and do all the things they want to do. They can chat as much as they want to everybody. They can wave their arms, jump around, go crazy, because that's it. Now we're into the fun part of the meeting. And at that time, I made another video. Guess what? I got an email from the speech chairperson of the Fair Oaks Rotary Club. And in this email, he says, Bill, here's a song for the speech contests. And I go, oh man, what do you mean a song for a speech contest? What in the heck is he thinking of? Guess what? One of the Rotarians of the Fair Oaks Rotary Club wrote a song about our theme of how 2020 opens opportunities. He made a song of it. And I'm thinking, well, you know, what am I going to do with this? Because if I tell him I don't want to use it, that's an insult, kind of. So I played it. Guess what? This song is cool as all get out. Mamit, I played it for your contest, and I was sitting there thinking, boy, this is really neat. Then I was thinking, okay, if I play this song and everybody just sitting and looking at each other, that isn't too good. So I made a video out of it, of vacation pictures of Lake Tahoe. And so we're going to play that song right after the judges come back in. Immediately after that, each contestant will introduce himself or herself. And that will start with Alex, with you. And I would like you to tell us the following names when you introduce yourself. obviously your own name. Then I want to know what grade you're in and what school you go to. And I want to know what your plans are for the future, for careers or colleges or anything like that. And then I want you to introduce your parents and your friends and anybody else that's in the audience, because we want to give them a little recognition as far as being at the contest. Okay, everyone got that when you introduce yourself? So be sure to all the Rotarians are very, very interested in what your young people are thinking about doing with your lives and stuff like that. I don't want it to be a real long presentation, but we want to know about you a little bit. Then after that happens, we have the awards presentations. And after each award is given, of course, there's going to be applauses allowed then. And so we want you to have a really good time getting your awards. And of course, one of you is going to be going on to the finals. The finals will be May 6th, if you don't have that down anywhere, okay? May 6th. And by the way, what do you think I'm going to do for a closing? Mamie, you already know, so don't say anything. You're not allowed to say anything. What do you think I'm going to do for a closing? Anybody? Come on, you guys. What am I going to do? What would a nutcase like me do for a closing? I'm going to play the rest of the song from the beginning. I'm going to say, okay, we're going to finish this meeting the way we started it. And everybody's going to jump up and they're leaving and going. And Mamit, isn't that how it turned out?
Yes.
And I was so, I had no idea this song was going to be so popular. Maybe we'll have a dance after the speech contest. I'm not sure. One thing else I'm sending each of you. The judges work off of a spreadsheet. And so they have contestant 1, contestant 2, contestant 3, contestant 4, and all those things. I took a screenshot of the spreadsheet and I'm going to send it to you because I want you to know exactly what the judges are grading you on. Now, this is kind of hard to use because there's 10 things that they grade you on. So here's my advice. Make sure that while you're doing your speech, if you have an area that works for a special part of the judging sheet, that you really emphasize it for that particular area, like enthusiasm or something like that. Think, man, I'm going to overdo it and make sure that they grade me up in that. And then get to another area, whatever it is, and then emphasize it. So don't try to do it all at once. Do it in sections, maybe tie it in with your keywords and stuff like that. That is the conclusion of our orientation. And does anybody have any questions or remarks, or do you feel comfortable knowing exactly what's going to happen? I'm going to email you this information. I'm going to email you that screenshot of the judges' score sheet. And if you have a question or something comes up, I put my contact number and email and text number on every single thing that I send out. Please feel free to call me at any time. And I will try to take care of whatever your question is or get it answered for you if I don't have the answer. So anything else that anybody, maybe I should play the song for you to get you all livened up. Okay. Anything else? Well, thanks for coming, you guys. I'm missing 3 people, so maybe they'll be able to see the video when we make it. I will send you out a link to the video. I have a number of things on my YouTube channel. Most of it's boring, but so far it's not too, I haven't exactly been overwhelmed with the number of people visiting my YouTube channel, but anyway, I'll put this on the YouTube channel and I'll send you a link as to how to get there. So if you want to review it or have your friends or parents say, hey, this is what this nutcase told us today. And so anyway, that's it. And nothing else.
I have a question.
What's that?
You told me put contestant number 1. Am I first or is Alexander contestant number 1?
Oh, I didn't understand you, Sarah. What'd you say?
Oh, you told me to put contestant number 1. Am I going first or is Alexander going first? Because we're both
No,
number.
you're going first. You're in a different area than Alexander. Do you understand? You missed the orientation meeting for your area was yesterday.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're number 1 on this Thursday, and Alexander is number 1 on a week from Thursday. He's in area 1 and 2, and you're in area 5 and 7. Okay, does that make sense to you? So you're not going to get in a fist fight with Alex over who's first. Okay. And Angela,
Bill,
thanks for coming. Yeah.
Bill, I just have a real quick question. Could you tell the students who is included in areas 1 and 2? What clubs?
All the clubs are 1 and 2 is Gridley, Oroville, Marysville, South Yuba County, Yuba City, and Roseville.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question. Are we, just to confirm, we're using the same speech that we,
Oh, yeah,
Perfect.
I need to mention that. You're using the same speech. By the way, were any of you told the theme was anything other than how 2020 opens opportunities? Because I went to 2 different speech contests where the wrong theme was being used. Luckily, our theme is so broad that most of the speeches would fit into the theme that is the correct theme, because you do have to use the same speech. However, you don't have to use the same wording. Do you understand the difference? Because you're telling stories now, right? And you can change the wording and tell the same story. There is no rule that says you have to give your speech word for word the same. Does that make sense? Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to memorize your speech. Now, if you're smart enough to memorize your speech, don't make it sound memorized when you do it. Okay? That's kind of critical. If people think you're just a genius, they're sprouting out memorized stuff. You guys would have really gone to sleep with me if I would have done that, right? So don't do that. Make them understand that you're having a good time and feel good about it. Other questions? Okay. Goodbye, you guys. I'll see some of you Thursday and some of you a week from Thursday. Let me stop the
Thanks, Bill.